Zap Cannon Registeel is probably one of the most annoying Pokemon right now in Great League PvP. And the thing is that you get it in raids, right? And it's a special trade to trade it with people. So the raid floor is 10-10-10 IVs. You could trade to get potentially better IVs, right? But how much do you have to trade to get the potentially better IVs? What's the likelihood of you really improving your Registeel? Well, to help you decipher all that, I have here the Registeel PvP IV Deep Dive for Great League PvP specifically. In this video, I'm going to talk about the best IVs for a raid caught only Registeel, and I'm also going to talk about how much you can improve Registeel's power by trading for a better PvP IV Registeel, complete with PvP IV tables and stuff to make it easier for you to navigate. Now with this, if you already have a Registeel built for Great League already, you can use this information to kind of compare your Registeel to, does your Registeel meet the quality standard? And if it doesn't, will you want to improve your IVs to potentially improve its matchups? Ultimately, that's up to you to decide. Here, I'm just going to provide all the information for you in case you want to do it. Now, if you're wondering why I'm doing Registeel so late in the game, like the raid happened like a month ago basically now, I didn't have time to do this content then, and the raid was already passing by, so I was like, okay, I'm just not going to do this content, I guess. But enough people have been asking me in my YouTube comments, they've been asking me on Reddit, even my patrons have been asking me, and they pay me money to do content. So obviously I have to listen sometime, right? So even though this is pretty after the fact for Registeel raids, I guess at the time of recording this video, enough people seem to want this information that, I gotta do it. I can do it. I did it. Here it is. We did it. Now, if you are curious about Registeel information for Ultra League PvP, I do have that information on deck, and then like an article for Game Press, all this information in text-based format. I'm also working on that on the side as well. But doing this content took a little bit longer than I thought, so I do want to shift gears and focus on Alolan Sandslash for Great League and Ultra League because the Community Day is coming up this weekend. So the Ultra League content and the Game Press article will be coming out at a later date. Right now, just Great League, right? So let's get into it. So for the raid only Registeel, not trading your Registeels, only doing raid catches, the 10-10-10 floor Registeel in the Great League PvP, the main stat that seems to matter is 127 HP. And then following that, 186.71 defense. With that HP, you're more able to consistently win or tie the 1-1 mirror matchup against opposing Registeels. And with that defense, it keeps you even more consistent in that situation, because if you have low enough defense and they have a high enough attack stat, or they have a high enough defense stat, then your 127 HP isn't like truly 127 HP because you're taking extra Focus Blast damage. So 186.71 defense keeps you a bit more consistent in that situation. Now you could be thinking, well, Ryan Swag, I could throw Zap Cannon and then their Focus Blast does less damage. And that is true. But given the timing and the damage versus the damage reduction in the 1-1 mirror matchup and the 0-0 mirror matchup, Zap Cannon really isn't going to save you more so than what your IVs are going to do. Now in the 2-2 shield situation, the 2-2 is CMP based, it's not bulk based, right? But Zap Cannon could tip the odds in someone's favor in that situation, and because there's so much build-up damage to the Focus Blasts end up KOing still. So it's just, the 2-2 shield scenario is a hot mess, so I wouldn't worry about the 2-2 too much. The 0-0 is going to be CMP based, so whoever has the highest attack stat for the charge move priority, and then the 0-0 is going to be these stats for the most part. Now when it comes to these stats in particular, if you do your own simulations, you'll find that against the rank 1 raid caught Registeel, you're often losing, unless you're the rank 2. The rank 2 can beat the rank 1, and then nothing can beat the rank 2 aside from the rank 4. And then when it comes to the rank 4, everything can like tie or maybe beat the rank 4, including the rank 1, but not the rank 2. So if you want to chase the whole attack, defense, HP weight rabbit hole around in circles and drive yourself insane, you can do that. Or you could just settle with the 186.71 defense and 127 HP. I mean, ultimately what it comes down to is doing like, 9 to 16 raids to get any one of these 25 IV spreads. There's going to be 25 of them. Or you could do like hundreds of raids to get any one of those 3, the rank 1, 2, or 4 specifically. But I think at the end of the day, if you really do want that higher level, you want a rank 1 kind of performing raid Registeel, then I think you might have to dip into the trades to do that most reasonably. For this though, for these 25 out of 216 IV spreads, it's sort of like shoot for the moon, land among the stars. If you land on the brighter stars, congratulations. And here we have the 25 IV spreads that hit these defense and HP stipulations for a raid-only Registeel on PvPIVs.com. Link in the description to this specific table, of course, and other tables I'll be talking about in this video. Of course, you can always adjust these as well, and then if you want to know what they look like for, doing like with trades, you can adjust this for trades too. And the whole manipulating the trade floor thing is going to be pretty important in the next section because Registeel is, it's a special trade Pokemon. So to get really good IVs consistently, you'll have to do multiple trades. And are you trading with good friends, great friends, ultra friends, best friends? That like affects your rate of acquisition. So we're going to get into more of that later on in the video. Just getting your feet wet, letting you know that this little tab exists. You're going to be using this tab a lot later. So Great League Registeel Trade IVs. First thing you have to ask yourself is, should I trade to improve my Registeel? And ultimately that's up to you. I'm going to go through all this information. If this information ends up being pretty appealing to you and you're looking at your crummy Registeel, doesn't even have 127 HP Registeel, and you're thinking that it might be nice to plus on your Registeel, then I'd say trading for a better Registeel could be a good idea. Now if you're already satisfied with your Registeel and this doesn't change your mind, the numbers I'm about to go over, then I think you're safe just staying where you are. Because even if you get the defense breakpoints, even if you get the higher HP, like the matchup differences in most scenarios, like they don't even really change. They could change, and that's why you want to have the better IVs. That's why you want to improve your IVs to begin with. But there's nothing that's like consistent enough, to me at least, that really warrants like rolling super deep to getting those better IVs. But that said, having the better IVs could help you win that one important matchup. GBL doesn't matter too much. It's all odds. You lose to somebody, go fight more people, right? But when it comes to like a bracketed tournament, let's consider the Play Pokemon Championships that has thousands of dollars on the line. Could those better IVs give you that one win you need to get to the final round? The one win you need to take the gold? I mean, that is an element to Pokemon Go PvP. And I think it's kind of crummy, honestly, because circumstance does play a lot into somebody's ability to acquire really good IVs. And if you're living in nowhere land Wisconsin like me, your opportunity to get these better IVs significantly lower compared to somebody that lives in a big city who has more people to trade with, more people that are willing to trade, right? So, I think that adding PvP influencing items in Pokemon Go would be very beneficial to the competitive scene because it gives people more of an opportunity to compete on the same level as everyone else. You can sit back and say like, oh, whoever puts in more work, they deserve to have, the better IVs and the better Pokemon because they're putting in more work. But like, the work I have to put in versus the work that somebody in, California or something has to put in to get the same quality of Pokemon, especially when you consider that I don't have access to a Discord IV scanner and a lot of other players in this game do, it's a bit untenable. And I think it'd be most fair, most reasonable for Pokemon Go to add IV influencing items in this game. I feel like if they're going to continue with this championship series, they really ought to do that. They can't do it now, but I mean in like the coming year, I think that should be a priority task for Pokemon Go if they want to be a truly competitively viable game or just a random game that people just happen to have like better IVs, better performance in just based off of random circumstance. You know what I'm saying? At any rate, let's talk about these trade IVs now. So when it comes to a traded Registeel, I think the first thing to pay attention to is getting a 129 HP stat. The max HP that a raid one can get to is 128, and that 129 HP boosts its consistency in the 1-1 shield scenario, and then also gives it more potential in the 2-2 shield scenario, barring weird Zap Cannon shenanigans that don't work out for you, right? 129 HP just seems to be like that premium level of HP that kind of puts you a little bit of ahead. So as a basic floor, just having that maximum defense from the raids, which is like roughly 188, and having a 129 HP stat will just automatically put you ahead of all of the raid caught Registeels, and I don't think it's terribly unreasonable to go for that goal. The amount of trades it takes to get that, as I'm going to go over in the next section, really isn't that big of a deal. What does get to be a bit crazy, ridiculous, insane, borderline untenable is going for the defense breakpoints. The defense breakpoints are pretty nice, but none of them are consistent, because if the raid ones aren't getting it, then that means that like the opponents that you can get defense breakpoints on have to have low attack stats to begin with. In GBL, they could always have a higher attack stat, and therefore you don't get the breakpoint, but they might have the lower attack stat, and if you're in a big championship, thousands of dollars on the line, your opponents are using the best of the best stuff, they might have that lower attack stat. So having that higher defense stat could matter. Does it matter so much that you should dedicate like months to trading Registeels? I think that's up to you to decide what is reasonable to do and what you can do. But let's talk about the defense breakpoints. So the most high-end defense breakpoint that matters to me is going to be 191.97 defense up to 193.18. I think the 193.18 is a little bit too high in the sky. 191.97 is a lot more reasonable. But this is for the Vigoroth 1-1 shield scenario potential. The 191.97 is based on the 0-15-10 Vigoroth, so slightly higher attack weight than the rank 1 Vigoroth. The 193.18 is based on the highest attack weight of the top 20 rank Vigoroth. So as you can see, like the range can vary quite a bit with just a little bit attack on Vigoroth. So against most opponents, are you going to get this defense breakpoint? I don't know. But this is like the maximum crazy. Like, I don't think it's reasonable to try to trade for this level of defense, but if you happen to have it, congratulations, you might beat some Vigoroths, right? In the 1-1 shield scenario specifically. So that's kind of cool. For a more reasonable defense stat, you have the 188.81 to 190.09 defense range, and that's for the Sableye 1-1 and or 2-2 shield scenario. When it comes to the shield scenarios that you can flip, it really comes down to your bulk and your attack versus the Sableye's bulk and attack too. There's like a little bit of a weird interplay there that I couldn't like drop a pin on. But the 190.09 defense is based on my max recommended attack stat Sableye from my Sableye PvP IV deep dive, link up above and in the description to that one if you want to check it out. There could be higher attack weight Sableyes out there, in which case you no longer get this breakpoint. So sucks, right? But if they are being mindful, they watch the SwagTips PvP IV video to know which one they should purify and power up, then chances are you're going to get this defense breakpoint. Then this defense breakpoint kind of syncs up with the Galarian Stunfisk defense breakpoint, a range of 188.42 to 193.81 defense to overcome Galarian Stunfisk in the 1-0 and 2-1 shield advantage scenarios. So you have to spend an extra shield to overcome G-Fisk. If you didn't have this defense breakpoint, you'd lose even if you did spend that one extra shield. So it gives you a chance against Galarian Stunfisk is the whole point, right? The 188.42 is based on the rank 1 good friend trade Galarian Stunfisk. So I think that's like a reasonable min to go with. I think 190 could be a better floor to shoot for though. That's the best friend trade rank 1 Galarian Stunfisk. So when it comes to low attack, high bulk Stunfisks, I think that's like the least you could hope for on their attack. So you want at least 190 defense, which syncs up with the Sableye 190.09 defense. And then the 193.81 is based on the majority of high stat product Egg Hatch Floor IV Galarian Stunfisk. So once again, if somebody's not trading to get better Stunfisks, then chances are you're not going to get this defense breakpoint. But you could against them low attack ones. The potential is there. And then when it comes to these next 3 defense breakpoints, I don't think that they're that big of a deal, but they're worth considering, and they sync up with the other defense breakpoints too, so why not mention them? 189.47 to 191.22 is for the Obstagoon 1-1 shield scenario, provided they don't get the boost, and provided they don't have cross chop. So it is a little bit ridiculous to hope that this happens, but it could happen, right? The range is based on the best friend floor rank 3 to Egg Hatch rank 1, so I think that's a pretty reasonable range of attack to consider an Obstagoon to have for trying to get a defense breakpoint. Then you have 190.08, which suspiciously syncs up with that Sableye 190.09, right? For Lickitung, the upper limit I put for is 199.63. I can't remember specifically what that was based on, but the rank 1 Lickitung is the 190.08. So, yeah, it could help. PvPoke will tell you that it flips some matchups, but if you throw Zap Cannon instead of Focus Blast, then it doesn't flip nothing on Lickitung's side to get the breakpoint, but obviously taking one less lick damage before you throw the Zap Cannon is always nice. So if you get it, then you got it. Congratulations, right? If you don't, not a big deal. It's not going to lose the matchup for you. And then the final one's kind of an interesting one. 189.25 to 192.66 plus Shadow Dusclops. It can get you the 0-0, the 1-1, and potentially the 1-2 shield scenario. Now, are people running around with Shadow Dusclops? Is Shadow Dusclops meta, anti-meta, or whatever? It is just kind of a goofy, weird, spicy Pokemon, all things considered. So should you really have this on the forefront of your mind to be concerned about? Probably not. But it stood out to me just how good Shadow Dusclops could be against this Pokemon. And so I decided to highlight the defense range that can help you kick its ass. So overall, I think the most reasonable defense breakpoint to try to go for is like the 190.09. You know, it gives you Sableye, or at least most high-quality Sableye. It could get you Galar Stunfisk, or a good amount of high-quality Galar Stunfisk. Could maybe get you the Obstagoon, the Lickitung, and the Shadow Dusclops, should it show up. But it won't get you Vigoroth, but who cares, right? Because the opportunity for you to get the Vigoroth defense breakpoint versus your opportunity to get this defense breakpoint, like, the gap is huge. Shooting for 129 HP is also a really good goal to have with trading as well. And then, of course, the 191.97, that's also a great goal to have. But ultimately, when it comes to trading your Registeels to try to get a better IV spread, there's going to come a point where you've done, like, I don't know, 10, 12 trades, and you've got one that has like the 190.09 defense, and it doesn't have 129 HP, but it's got 128 HP, and you have to look in the mirror and go, is this good enough for me? You know, as far as I'm concerned, like how hard it is to get specific IV spreads, especially from these special trades that you're probably going to have to do with good friend people, which is like 20k Stardust per trade, it gets to be a bit untenable, I feel. Like, so it's up to you to decide personally where your cutoff is. I think if you have anything that's better than the rank 1 raid catch in terms of stats, I think you've already, plussed out, and the relative gains you're going to make in the majority of scenarios really isn't going to be worth the Stardust and effort. So as with the raid IVs, I've got tables down in the description for 190.09 defense and 127 HP, and I also have a table for 191.97 and 129 HP. What I have here presented to you are the chances, the rate of acquisition, how many trades you'll have to do, how much Stardust that could cost you, the probability of you getting these better IV spreads, right? So if your goal is to get 190.09 defense and 127 HP, so just like an improved raid caught one, like more premium raid IV type Pokemon, if you're trading with good friends exclusively, it could take you 6 to 19 trades to do, and because they're 20k Stardust a trade, that's 250k on average to get that good IV Pokemon. And if you go through these scenarios here, you can see that it's kind of most reasonable for this scenario to go for the Ultra Friend, because the cost for Ultra Friend versus Great or Good Friend is significantly lower, and it takes just about the same amount of trades, 9 to 27 trades, so I'd say find yourself like an Ultra Friend and have at it. The rate of acquisition is a bit low when it comes to Best Friends. We're talking 15 to 49 trades, and I guess if you don't have an Ultra Friend to trade with, a Best Friend trade is better than no trades for your one special trade per day, so that is something to consider. But I'd probably favor the Ultra Friends compared to the Best Friends. Now, when it comes to like the 6 to the 19, the 7 to the 22, and so on, that's based on a 51% probability to 90% probability. So it's not 100% probability, because that doesn't exist in this game. You could trade a good friend from now until the day you die and never get this IV floor for a Registeel. That's a chance. Will it probably happen? I mean, if you're trading every single day, probably not. You probably will get it after, I don't know, like 30 trades or something, but it's not, there never will be 100%. So like a 99%, a 99.99%, like it gets to be a bit ridiculous, so I gotta cap it somewhere. just know that you're not guaranteed to get it in 19 good friend trades, and you never will be guaranteed to get it. Now, when it comes to the super high end of the spectrum, the 191.97 defense and the 129 HP, if you're trading just good friends, reasonably, it could take you 31 to 98 trades to acquire it. That's like 3 months of just trading Registeel with good friends exclusively, which will rack you up well over 1 million Stardust. So if you do want to have that hyper premium IV spread, you really do have to look in the mirror and think, am I really willing to trade nothing but Registeel for like 3 months? Can I do nothing but trade Registeel for 3 months? You know, is that even a possibility for me? And I get the joke of the whole situation is that you could put in that work. You could trade for 3 months straight, good friend only, and not even get it. And I could trade just one person one time and boom, right there, I could get the rank 1. And I think that's ridiculous in terms of competition, because if we're rolling up to the tournament, you put in all this time and effort and work and you just didn't get it, but I did. And I didn't put in the time, effort, or work. I just happened to get it. I think that's kind of ridiculous how much that like tips the scales in terms of competition. Now, when it comes to the true performance of these Registeels, like in a vacuum, and they're fighting all these different Pokemon, like the true difference really isn't that great. But ultimately, the difference is there. Some of these Pokemon are going to have more defense, more HP than the other ones, and in those uneven situations, that could get you the win or the loss. And when it comes to Registeel in particular, attack breakpoints don't matter. It doesn't have attack breakpoints. So pumping up that defense and HP, that's just the way to go. And there was no limit. The limit is how much are you willing to trade? How much are you able to trade to get those better IVs? So I think the Registeel situation in particular is just really ridiculous to me. I'm sorry if I harped on this a little bit too much. Tables linked in the description. I'm just letting you guys know to have some reasonable expectations when it comes to trying to get these improved PvP IVs, because if you are going for those hyper ideal ones, chances are it's probably never going to happen. You could trade for like a year and not even get it. So just keep that in perspective when it comes to Registeel IVs. And that's all I gotta say about Registeel PvP IVs in the Great League PvP. If you got any questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, maybe you want to know about Ultra League Registeel IVs, or maybe you want to know about Alolan Sandslash IVs, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. Yeah, I kind of have to question if I went on too much of a rant about how ridiculous it is that Pokemon Go is going to be like a sponsored competitive format by Play Pokemon, and how ridiculous the whole IV situation is for competition. Or did I not rant about it enough?